everybody. Welcome to Wings for Life. We have a great speaker for us tonight. I'm so excited. Valentina Smith-Klein. And wow, she's going to talk about Be the Influence. Valentina works for Bernalillo County. That's the county that Albuquerque is in. And she goes to all the elementary schools, and she talks about how to be aware of use of alcohol and drugs, and does just a wonderful job. And I'm so excited to have her here tonight because this is such an important topic. So tonight, all of us adults and any of the kids that are listening are going to learn about how to be the influence. So she is a graduate of the University of New Mexico. She is an alcohol and substance abuse expert, and she is going to share with us tonight now all about how to be that positive influence. So, welcome, Valentina. Come on and share with everybody.
Great. Thank you, Anne. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to spend this precious time with you. I know that time is precious. We are so busy with our daily life, so let me get started. First, I'd like to say thank you to Anne from Wings for Life for allowing me to share this platform with her. I would also like to say thank you to Anne and her team for the amazing job that she does for our community and also for Albuquerque and for New Mexico. So thank you, Wings for Life. My name is Valentina Smith-Klein, and I am with Be Above the Influence through Bernalillo County. I'm here tonight to encourage you to be the influence and start talking to your kids before they start drinking. First off, I wanted to show you and read you a little something. Welcome to being a parent of a teenager. Prepare for a large amount of eye-rolling, emotional outburst, and thoughts of running away. And that's just us parents. Our most important members of our future society are our kids. So it's time that we as parents, caregivers, adults, start to seek results instead of excuses and start speaking up. What we say today can be the difference in the future for everyone. Their future, our future. Their life, our life. What happens to our kids happens to us. So not only am I here to encourage you, but I'm also here to challenge you to talk to your kids sooner rather than later. The chance that our children will start using alcohol gets higher as he or she gets older. Now, about 10% of our 12-year-olds say that they have already tried alcohol. And by the age of 15, that number jumps to 50%. Now, most 6-year-olds know that alcohol is for adults. But between the ages of 9 and 13, kids start to see and view alcohol differently. Many even think that drinking is okay, and some will even start to experiment. So according to the National Institute of Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism, 95,000 approximately a year will die related to alcohol. And out of that 95,000, 5,000 approximately will be our kids 21 and under. Now, I don't know about you, but those numbers are alarming. To me, one is alarming because alcohol is a senseless death. Now, some of you may think that, well, we live in the United States with 330 million people, so that's not too much. But if you are the one that lost a loved one, then again, one is too many. So I'm here tonight to encourage you to let's talk to our kids. Let's get our city back. Let's get our state back. Let's get our country back. Let's get our world back. Because alcohol is so damaging to not only the person who is drinking, but to everybody who is related, anybody who is around them, and even people that don't even know you because of drunk driving and accidents. So it's never too early to talk to your children about alcohol. Research states that we should start talking to our children as early as 9 years old, and maybe even earlier depending on the circumstances. And it's never too late to start talking to your kids, even if it's 15, 18, 24, 30. I have a 24-year-old, and I constantly always remind him, make sure that you have a designated driver if you choose to go out and drink. I also encourage him not to drink because many people don't realize this, but your brain is not fully developed until the age of 25. So anybody who chooses to do drugs and alcohol under the age of 25 can damage their brain. Now, sitting down for the big talk about alcohol with our kids can be intimidating, not only for you and for your child, but it's important that we start to get into the habit of chatting with our children every single day. Try using everyday opportunities to talk to your child, whether that be in the car, at the dinner table, watching a video, or maybe even playing a video game with them. It will make it easier to have a serious conversation about things like alcohol, and it'll make your child more comfortable when they're able to come to you for advice. And having lots of little talks is better than one big talk. This gives them the opportunity to hopefully not shut you out. Now, studies have shown that parents have the most significant influence on young people's decision about alcohol consumption, especially when parents create supportive and nurturing environments in which their children can make their own decisions. So the sooner you talk to your children about alcohol, the greater chance you will have of influencing their decision not to drink. When you do talk to your child about alcohol, make sure that your views and your rules are clear. Take the time to discuss your beliefs and your opinions about alcohol. Be honest and express a clear, consistent message that underage drinking is unacceptable. When they feel that you are being real and honest with them, they'll be more than likely to respect your rules and underage drinking. And as children get older, what you say to a 9-year-old is going to be different on what you will say to a 15-year-old or an 18-year-old. So make sure that the information you offer your child fits their age. As they get older, you can give them more information, and please reinforce your rules. But as they enter junior high and high school, remember the pressure of trying to fit in there's going to be more opportunity where they're going to be pressured into drinking alcohol. So it's important to keep the conversation going with your adolescents. They really are listening. So it's important, again, that you send a strong, clear message. Show that you disapprove of alcohol. And again, alcohol is not acceptable. Try not to scare your child about drinking or telling him or her that he or she can't handle it. Instead, tell your child that alcohol can be bad for his or her growing brain, that it interferes with their judgment and can make him or her sick. Once children hear the facts and your opinions about them, it's easier for you to make rules and to enforce them. Show that you care about your child's well-being and happiness. Young people are more likely to listen when they know that you are on their side. Try to reinforce why you don't want your child to drink, not just because you say no or because you say that it's not okay, but because you want your child to be happy. You want your child to be safe. The conversation will go a lot better if you're working with them and not against them. Now, try to be conscious of how you help you build your child's self-esteem. For example, kids are more likely to feel good about themselves if you emphasize their strengths and positively reinforce their healthy behaviors. Keep it low-key. Don't worry about trying to get all the conversation out at once. Remember, small talks are better than one big talk. And your words are very powerful. Now, kids right now with cell phones, that's the thing of our future right now. And kids are always on their cell phones, and they are learning and getting information that is inappropriate and things that they shouldn't be. It's important that you, as a parent, know what's going on with your kids. Know who they're talking to, what they are looking at on the website. Show that you're paying attention, and you'll notice if your child is drinking if you do pay attention. You want to show that you're keeping an eye on your children because your young people are more likely to drink if they know that you aren't noticing. Now, remember, the conversation does go both ways. Although talking to your child about your thoughts about alcohol and its essential, it's also important to hear their point of view. Give the child the opportunity to ask questions and listen to what they have to say. Children who have parents who listen to their feelings and their concerns, they're more likely to say no to alcohol. Children are more likely to avoid alcohol when they have strong, trusting relationships with parents, caregivers, and even teachers. Now, what are some of the reasons that your child may drink alcohol? Stress, maybe because they're going to be going into a new grade, whether that be middle school or high school. Maybe because of physical appearance, because the peer pressure, because they're supposed to look a certain way. Help them, encourage them to try to get involved in extracurricular activity. Let them know that the way that they look and who they are, that they are perfect just exactly on who they are, that they're amazing. Keep encouraging them. Keep giving them positive reinforcement. Peer pressure. Now, peer pressure at this day and age is very difficult. I know at my time, which is a long time ago, was very difficult, but I can't imagine today at this time. So between the ages of 11 and 18, it's a very impressionable period when youth are especially susceptible to outside influences, such as peers, family members, and the media. And when I say family members, we as family, we need to be able to accept our children for who they are and what they are. So they shouldn't be getting that peer pressure from the family members, but unfortunately they do. So families, it's time that we step up and we support our kids. What can you do? Of course, let's boost their confidence. Let's help them to say no. One of the things that I highly suggest is that you role play with your child. You don't want them to come into a situation where they're being asked to do drugs or alcohol, and there's lots of people around, and they're feeling that peer pressure. So before that situation happens, role play with your child. Come up with a situation so that you can teach your child how to say no, so that they don't have to worry at the last minute on what it is that they're going to say, because if they don't have an answer, they're more than likely going to say yes. So it is important that we role play. The other thing that I would like to say is that parents have a code word for your kids. If you have, especially young kids, that you are the one that usually picks them up, they have a regular person who picks them up, but maybe something may happen. There may be an emergency. Have a code word with your child that only you and your child knows. So that if you have to have a neighbor or somebody else pick them up, this neighbor or that person, you give them that code word. And maybe that code word is something as simple as pancake. You don't want to give them something that anybody could find out on social media, such as your pet's name, something that they can probably figure out. It has to be something that's unusual that only you and your child will know. And so if there is somebody that needs to come and pick them up, they're going to tell your child, your mom had an emergency and they asked me to pick you up. Your child is then going to say, well, what is the code word? And if the code word's pancake, they're going to say pancake. And that child is going to know that it is safe to go with that person because mom or dad or caregivers gave them the code word. Now, transitioning. Life events such as transitioning from middle school to high school, breaking up with a significant other, moving, or even divorce can cause children to turn to alcohol. So be aware of all these factors that I mentioned. Now, how to tell if your child is drinking alcohol? Now, these are some possible warning signs, but also be aware that these warning signs that I'm giving you may also indicate a problem with alcohol or other drugs, but also it may reflect normal growing pains. Experts believe that a drinking problem is more likely if you notice several of these signs at the same time, or if they occur suddenly, or if some of them are extreme in nature. Mood changes. Now we know that teenagers are going to go through mood changes. 70 times a day? Probably. But they're all going to go through the irritability and be defensive. But if you see that your child is getting more defensive than normal, then this may be a sign. School problems, if they're having difficulty at school, if they were doing great at school and then all of a sudden their grades start to drop, or even poor attendance, take notice of what is going on. Friend changes. Let's say that your child has had a friend, 2 or 3 friends for years, but all of a sudden your child is hanging out with somebody else. Well, it's important that you as a parent, as a caregiver, that you know who it is that your child's hanging out with. Get to know those kids. Get to know who those kids' parents are. If your child is hesitant about sharing who their new friends are, then there probably is an issue with drugs or alcohol. Rebellion against family rules. Again, they're teenagers. They are going to try to push the envelope. But if you see that they are doing it more than normal, they're doing it in a very abrasive way, then take notice that that could also be a sign. And a nothing matters attitude, where they don't even care about their appearance, how they look. They're not involved in any extracurricular activity because they just don't want to do anything. They feel like it feels like they have low energy. They don't want to even hang out really with friends unless it's those certain friends that are possibly doing drugs or alcohol. Now also, take notice on where your kids could possibly be hiding drugs or alcohol. Now their backpack. Many times their backpacks, we are thinking that they're just going to be carrying their books. And because they know that that's what we're assuming, they're assuming that we're not even going to check their backpacks. But check their backpacks every once in a while and make sure that they are not hiding drugs or alcohol. Also, check their binders in their room, because it's easy enough where you're thinking that they're not hiding it in a book. They're not going to be hiding it in the most obvious place. Now, this may be some news to you that they're hiding it in Listerine bottles or in Gatorade bottles, and they're taking it to school. And teachers, parents aren't even thinking anything of it because it's in a Gatorade bottle. A Pringles can. I would have never thought myself to think about a Pringles can. We always think it's not our kids, that it's not going to happen to our kids. No, that our kids are perfect. But remember, we also need to be aware that the peer pressure, and they could say yes to drugs or alcohol. So we need to be there. We need to support our kids, and we need to be aware on what it is that they are doing. Now, of course, we all know that physical or mental problems such as memory lapse, poor concentration, bloodshot eyes, lack of coordination, or slurred speech isn't obvious. But we get so involved in our everyday life, trying to take our kids from one place to the next place for practice, our jobs and our work, that sometimes we don't even notice what's right there in front of us. Serious consequences. Our kids know that there's serious consequences if they do drugs and alcohol. But sometimes they don't really actually take the time to think that this could actually happen to me. I could actually go to jail if I got caught with drugs or alcohol. Or I could actually hurt myself or hurt somebody else. They think that they're invincible. So it's important that we keep the conversation going. Now, kids who drink alcohol are more likely to use other drugs, such as marijuana, stronger drugs, cocaine, get bad grades. So remember, make sure that you ask your children when it's time for their report card to come in. Make sure that you see that, especially if your children were doing great and all of a sudden their grades stopped to drop significantly. Suffer serious injury. It's important to let your children know that this could happen. Even though they are aware of it, I don't think that they actually really process it. So keep the conversation going. They will also engage in risky, or they can possibly also engage in risky and sexual activity. So if they are drinking and doing alcohol, like I said, there's more chance that they will start or try to use stronger drugs, and could also lead to making more inappropriate choices. Bad decisions, just like I mentioned. Health problems. Young people who drink are more likely to have health issues such as depression and anxiety disorders. Now, what can you do to prevent your children from drinking? Well, the first thing is be aware of where you keep your liquor. Always remind your children that your alcohol that you have is off limits. And if you do have alcohol at home, do me a big favor. Put it in a high place and lock it up. Do not give your children alcohol under no circumstances. Even if your child has turned 18 and it's their graduation party, and you think, well, you know what? They're 18, they're going to be 21 soon, we're at home, not a big deal. Here's a beer. But by you doing that, you're telling them that it's okay to break the law. So tell them that alcohol in your home is also off limits to them and their friends. Build your child's skills and strategies by avoiding underage drinking. Even if your child doesn't want to drink, remember there's the peer pressure that is very powerful. It could be tempting to drink just to avoid looking uncool. To prepare your child to resist peer pressure, you'll need to build your skills and practice them. So, what if my friends ask me to drink? Helping your child to say no, just like I mentioned, let's do that role play so that they will be able to tell their friends no. They will be prepared. Now, the other thing that is, we don't want our kids to lie, but this will be one reason that we can say it is okay. Help your child by giving them a way out if they are pressured. So if your child says to you, texts you and says, did you say that you wanted me to babysit my baby brother? Or did you say you needed me to go to the store and pick you up something? And you're looking at this text and you're saying, what? Be prepared that you are both on the same page. So if your child sends you that message, or if your child calls you and tells you that, you're ready, you're prepared that your child is saying, I need help. And you're going to say, yes, actually, you do need to come back home right away because there is an emergency and you need to take care of your baby brother, your baby sister. You need to go to the store. Whatever it is, give your child an out so that they're not feeling so pressured by their peers or they're not being made fun of. If your children get invited to a party, ask them who's going to be there. Are there going to be adults? Is there going to be drugs? Is there going to be alcohol? Remind them that if there is drugs and alcohol, that they are not allowed to go. Work with your child to think of ways to handle the situation, whether it's simply saying a no, I don't drink, or saying I promised my parents that I wouldn't drink. And again, that role playing. Always have a plan A and a plan B. The other thing is when your child is out and about, answer your phone, even if you don't recognize that number, because a situation could happen if their phone died, or maybe they don't have their phone and they're calling from another number. So I think that children should always have 3 people that they're going to call an emergency. And those 3 people need to know at that time that when that child is out, that they need to answer their phone no matter what time it is when their child is out, just in case that child loses their phone and they need help. Now, what you do is just as important as what you say. In addition to talking often with your child about alcohol, it's important that you set a good example. If you choose to drink, you can positively influence your child by drinking in moderation and never drinking and driving. Be a positive role model. Stay away from alcohol in high-risk situations. For example, do not operate a vehicle after drinking alcohol. If you choose to go out, let your children know that you already have a designated driver planned, that you already have an Uber that's going to pick you up and is going to bring you back home. When they see that you are being responsible and you are making responsible choices, your children are also going to see that and they're going to follow that more than likely. Get help if you think that you have an alcohol-related problem. Be a good role model by possibly giving non-alcoholic beverages when you do have a family gathering, when you do have a party at home, and you have control of what it is that you serve. Educate yourself about alcohol so that you can be a better teacher. Read and collect information that you can share with your kids and even other parents. This way that when your kids come to you with questions, you're prepared with the answer. And it's also okay that if you don't have the answer, tell your child that you don't know the answer at this time, and you can both go and find the answer together, or tell your child that you'll come back with the answer. If your child asks you if you drank when you were a child or when you were a kid, be honest with them. But depending on their age is also going to depend on how much information you give them. But remember, don't glorify your drinking. Don't make it seem like it was an exciting time. Let them know what it is that you learned from them, from your situations. And if nothing bad happened at that time, when you were a teenager, when you were a kid and you were drinking underage, or you did some stupid things or inappropriate things and you got lucky, let them know that you got lucky, but that doesn't mean that they're going to get lucky. And if they ask you why you drink, well, let them know, for one, you are an adult and that you are able to make that choice because it is legal. But give them reasons such as maybe you're enhancing a meal, that you're sharing good times with friends, or you're celebrating a special occasion, but that also you're being responsible by having a designated driver and that you aren't drinking too much. Remind your child that underage drinking is against the law, and for good reason. Point out that adults are fully developed mentally and physically so that they can handle drinking. Children's minds and bodies, however, they are still growing, so alcohol can have a greater effect on their judgment and their health. Remember, be a good role model. It's important that you find out what your children are doing. It's important that you get involved in their lives. Make it easy for your children to share information about their lives. Help your children find ways to have fun without alcohol. Do not let your children attend parties at which alcohol is served. Now, I have this amazing Take the Parent Pledge form that I will actually give to Anne so she could put it on the website. I highly recommend that you give this to your children after you have the conversation and ask your child or your children to sign this pledge. Make sure they have the date on it. And so if your child chooses to do something that's inappropriate, show them this contract. If you do need help, there is plenty of help out there. You can talk to friends, you can talk to neighbors, you can talk to other co-parents, you can talk to your school, your counselor, you can talk to your doctor. There is help out there. What you say to your child about alcohol is up to you. But remember, parents who do not discourage underage drinking may have an indirect influence on their children's alcohol choice. So if you do not talk about it, you are still saying something, which basically you're saying that it's okay to drink. So again, finding help, it's out there. You can also go to, let me look for that, New Mexico Crisis Hotline. There's Google. There is also behavioral health treatment. Call your insurance, who it is that they cover. So there's many resources out there. Don't play the blame game and say, you know what, how did I not notice this? How did I not notice that my child was drinking? Don't play the blame game. Just go on and move forward and see how it is that you could help your child. And last, there's a couple of things. I'm going to end with this picture. Best to give some space. He's in a bit of a funny mood. Now, there's the parents, there's the kids. Please pass me that parenting handbook. I need to smack my teen with it. Okay, I do have a video that I'd like to play for you, but before I play that video, I wanted to tell you thank you for allowing me to spend this time with you. Again, I'm Valentina, and I am with Be Above the Influence with Bernalillo County.
and I had to see my son in a body bag. That feeling and that emptiness and that hurt and that longing just for them to wake up, or as a mother to fix things, because we're supposed to make everything better. And it's not there. You can't do it. And it takes a long time for you to even be able to function without pretending. My name is Samantha Brewster, and I'm here to tell the story of my son, Austin. There is a hole and a void in you that you can't explain. My daughter lost her best friend, the one she went to when things were hard. Their brothers lost a role model. And it happened so fast, no matter how happy I am, and it took a long time for happy. I didn't know if I'd feel it again. I didn't know if I would feel love again. It is just this empty, hard void. And it's really important that I get the message out that this can happen to anyone. Rich, poor, big town, city, small town with no stoplight. It's real, and it happens every day. Austin knew that the boys had been drinking, and he made a decision to get in the car with them. And yet, I think Austin just made that decision because kids are young and they do things. I did things. And you always think that you're invincible, or that your friends are always going to be there. They're always going to have your back. But that's not the reality. Our reality is that if I want to see my son, I have to look at a picture. And if I want to visit, I have to go to a gravesite. One day I locked myself in my room and pulled the pants out of the hospital bag that he was wearing that day. And I just held him, and I just sank in the floor, and I stayed there all day. And it's just that one decision impacted so much forever.
Wow. What a powerful video. Valentina, every word that you said, so powerful. As parents, as grandparents, as caring neighbors, we have to reach out. We have to help our kids to avoid this. And be that influence, be that positive influence. Lives are at stake here, and we need to do it. So Valentina, I thank you so much for everything that you shared with us. If you want to go to on our website, we have a placemat for further discussion, further information. You can also find that pledge that she talked about and all kinds of other resources. And so I hope that you will take time to share this with your children and everybody that you care about and you love, because we do not want to lose one more person in this world. Forget America, but in this world. Well, I wanted to leave on a little happier note here tonight, and this is how to plant your garden. So for the garden of your daily living, plant 3 rows of peas. Peas of mind, peas of heart, and peas of soul. Then you need to go and plant 4 rows of squash. Squash gossip, squash indifference, squash grumbling, and squash selfishness. Next, we go and we plant 4 rows of lettuce. Let us be faithful. Let us be kind. Let us be patient. Let us really love one another. Now, no garden is without turnips. So turn up for meetings, turn up for service, and turn up to help one another. And finally, to complete our garden, we must have time. Time for each other, time for family, and time for friends. Water freely with patience and cultivate with love. There is much fruit in your garden because you reap what you sow. So again, we thank you for being with us here tonight on Wings for Life. We thank Valentina for sharing that powerful message. And next week, we're going to hear from Ariel Schwab. And Ariel worked for us, did our after-dinner tutoring program for the children. And now she does a very, very important job out in the community, but very difficult, and I could never do it, as she works with children that have been sexually abused. So we're going to talk about a very difficult subject, but one that is so important. We all need to be aware of this too. So hope you'll join us next week at Wings for Life, 6 o'clock Mountain Time, and look forward to seeing you then. Thanks, everybody, and have a wonderful night. Bye-bye.